Welcome back to Thriving in Love podcast, the podcast that challenges the norms so couples and human beings can thrive as their most authentic selves. Today on the show, we have a very beautiful, powerful guest. It is a privilege and an honor to bring her medicine to you guys. So without further ado, here's a beautiful introduction that literally just touches on the surface of this woman's magic. Today on the show, we have Shantani Moore, a body intelligence coach you need as the secret sauce behind your success. Specializing in nervous system performance, she's worked with top 1% global wellness leaders, celebrities, and corporations over the past decade. She has been featured in major outlets like Women's Health, Equinox, and Lululemon. Shantani has inspired thousands of people all over the world to claim the lives they want and retire the status quo lives they've been sold. And of course, this woman's reputation is that when you're in her presence and she's doing her magic on you, you're going to unearth a lot of core wounds and memories that may have been suppressed for a really long time. And not only is that going to come up, she's going to create the safety and security to help you feel even deeper so we can once and for all alchemize this pain into power. Shantani, welcome. Thank you so much for the gift that you offer this world. You are literally a new paradigm leader. So I'm excited to dive into how you became this woman today. We're going to start with your transformation. We're going to start with the origin story, and then we'll dive all into your magic.
Oh, thank you so much for having me today. This is just such a delicious conversation. I already know we had a beautiful just moment of grounding before this, and I feel so ready to dive in.
What is your origin story? How did you start? How did you know you had this gift in you?
Well, I began my professional career as actually a singer, dancer, actor in Los Angeles. And in that space, I learned a lot about what it means to show up, to be able to share your gifts with others, to be able to make them laugh, to make them see themselves through stories, but also what the other aspects of that could be, which is hustle culture and overperforming and literally performing for a paycheck. Now, while I was doing that, I found myself teaching fitness and as my side hustle. As I was going through my journey, I started to hear this whisper of, what we would call maybe just like burnout, but really it's a deeper calling into a more aligned way of just showing up in the world. I had a moment where I was actually teaching a class during 2020 in a parking garage outside because that's where we were doing fitness classes. And by the end of the class, I had found myself on the floor with tonic immobility, meaning like trauma-induced paralysis. And I just remember at the end of the class being ready to stand up, and I actually physically couldn't get up, and I was on my back, and it was a huge wake-up call. To anybody who's ever had that experience of wanting to move your body and then physically not being able to, it's really scary. And that was the tick of the domino that really called me in to dive more into what is the nervous system, what is burnout, what is this whole conversation that we'll dive into more today. So with that, I found myself I was pretty heavy into the Western approach to health and wellness, but really leaning back into the Eastern approach and energy work and things like that. So I got Reiki attuned. I studied sound healing and shamanic arts and other practices that deal with the nervous system, like spinal energetics. And I started to really use those to reclaim my own authority in my own life and stop outsourcing my opinions and my actions for the sake of other people's validation, and to start to really architect a life that allows me to feel good, and in those moments where, it's not always feeling great, I have the tools, the resources, and I've done the work that we all continue to do, so that's a little bit about me. And now I love my business. I'm a body intelligence coach, self-proclaimed body intelligence coach. And that really to me is the work that I'm meant to do in the world, which is helping people to come back home to themselves, to feel lighter and yet more settled in these bodies so that you can relate to others in a way that's authentic and intimate and honest and real, because I believe that's why we're all here.
I'm going to dive into all of the questions that are opening in my mind. First, starting with something that you said was so beautiful was burnout is often a mask for a deeper calling. I want that to really land with the audience today, because so many people come to me and they are just at this point of exhaustion that no amount of sleep or rest can help. And I tell them that it's a spiritual rest that you are being called to. So, what did that look like for you? And how did you realize that? Like, because you're somebody that was so much in the Western wellness space, where a lot of them, I think, are trying to help you fix a problem and then go back to how you were. But instead, you took that as a moment of getting deeper clarity. And then it allowed you to open up into this entire world of becoming who you came here to be. So, how did you know that it wasn't a problem to fix and it was actually a deeper calling?
Well, being totally transparent, there wasn't another option. I was in this place of actually pushing. I was pushing and pushing. And even after that moment on on that parking garage floor, I would be lying if I said that I completely overhauled my whole life in that moment, right? I still had to detangle from so much internally and externally. I had built my entire career off of showing up and smiling and doing burpees and being the fun girl with the afro, doing the workout classes. And so I had to really disentangle from that. But as I started to dive deeper into the energetics and having moments where I started to realize that when I started to slow down, that there were memories and emotions. Anybody who has taken a yoga class and been in pigeon pose and cried in it gets me right now. It's like I had these moments where I started to realize my body's actually holding so much more. And my body is not simply a vehicle for other people's validation. It's actually a vessel for me to experience more of what I came to do. And it just stopped being important because I was miserable. I think that pain is such a great motivator. There are three main motivators that humans can be really pushed by, and it's pain, pleasure, and purpose, you know?
Mm.
So with how much pain I was experiencing internally, despite being externally seeming like the wellness girly it girl has it all, lives in LA, I just kind of had a reckoning. And was spirit, the universe, life, whatever you want to call it, like just kind of put me down this path of like, we are not going down any other path with this but this one. And the longer that you take to take a step forward, the more you're going to be sitting in that pain.
Exactly. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. It really is like spirit picks you up and says, no more,
Mm-hmm.
and like puts you down and says, sit down and just listen. Did you
Mm-hmm.
have that period where it wasn't like people say it's like the killing the ego or silencing the ego or whatever? I don't fully believe that we have to like go of our ego in order and like all of our worldly desires in order to do the work that we came here to do. I believe in integration and union of the two. But did you have a period where you had to really, really humble yourself in order to listen to the guidance within?
Oh, absolutely. So a little further in my story, so maybe a year and a half to 2 years after that, I was still in the industry and still work in the health and wellness space. But my speaking of the ego, my ego was fighting, honey.
Yep,
She
same
was
girl. Hyper independent
fighting.
woman right here. Yep,
I
yep,
was
yep.
like, it's fine. Sometimes people like can't get off the ground. It's all good. No. So I kept pushing and actually landed one of the biggest brand deals of my career with a very influential brand that everybody probably has on in their closet. And I ended up being one of the faces of that campaign. And I thought that, okay, like this is the moment where like everything I've been working for, like it's going to be this huge wave of right? Well, to keep the story short, what ended up happening was the day after the launch date, my face was on the email and I got dropped from the project. And I didn't know why. I at first thought, my people pleasing tendency started kicking in, like, oh, I must have offended somebody along the way on set, like starting to do some investigating. Well, long story short, I found out that one of the higher ups at the company that I was working for wanted to release me from the project because I had gained weight.
What?
Yeah.
Especially in the industry of fitness, where
Mm-hmm.
like real bodies
Mm-hmm.
are so important to
Yeah.
be represented.
Totally. And it was interesting because I'm a Black woman and I have never been, rail thin. I've like an athletically curvy-ish build. And so many people who were members like really enjoyed seeing me represent a different population and a different quote unquote vision for what fitness and health could look like. Now, with all of that, to come back to your question, the irony was that during that period between the parking garage and that brand deal, remember, I had that moment where I started to dive in and I started to reclaim my own time, my own energy. I started to kind of detach from some of the things that I knew I wasn't really in alignment with anymore while still working in the industry. So there was this subtle splitting. But as I was doing that, I do believe this. It was something about these all those little fractures and fractals of my soul that I was outsourcing started coming back into myself, and I started to be happier and healthier and literally take up more space. I was no longer teaching classes and pushing myself and just focusing on like the green juice and running 10 miles and all of that stuff. And so my body looked different because I started to detach from those things and realize that they weren't for me and they weren't helpful for me mentally, even though on the outside everyone was like, oh my gosh, you look so healthy, so great, right? So the moral of the story is that as I started to come back home and pull those parts of myself inward, I started to take up more space. And then the partnership didn't have room for that, for a woman taking up that much space energetically and physically, which anybody who's followed my journey, it was truly I'm biased, but it was like an outrageous claim. It was like I went from like a size 6 to like a size 8. Like it really
Yeah.
wasn't that big a deal. But the point is none of that should have mattered is the point.
The way I see it is like, what a gorgeous mirror. Because we were just talking about, did you have to humble yourself? Did your ego have to like into alignment? And it sounds like in that moment, the universe offers you this beautiful, painful mirror of like, are you actually in integrity with where you're heading? Or are you going to abandon, self sabotage the journey in order to go back to the size 6 and feel like you need to fit into this box in order to have the success that you desire?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Totally.
and
I
you were
felt
like,
I
no, I'm actually going to double down on this transformation, and I'm going to say good riddance. Thank you, next. And know that anything that gets removed is simply making space for what is in alignment that's going to be 10x, 100x more fulfilling than having to contort and change who my authentic self is in order to have XYZ.
Absolutely. And it was, it was humbling to use your words, and it was painful. It was really hard. I was angry. It activated all of my little body triggers, my little Black girl triggers, my body dysmorphia triggers, my all of that stuff being representing, in white wellness space, being the only one, being the token, all that stuff that I was like swallowing for a paycheck and just smiling and nodding, came to the surface and I had to deal with it. So now that we're years out from it, I can look back and set it down, and I feel so much more grounded in that than when I did before.
Yeah. You see
And I
it as
had
the as medicine now, right?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. It was the it was the medicine that I needed, but it was definitely not what I wanted in that moment.
No. And we don't get what we want. We get what we need in order
That's
for
right.
our soul expansion. Like
That's
that's the
right.
whole name of the game.
Literally. It's like, can I try something else? Can we take another? But there wasn't another path. And when I look back now, all I'll say is that karma did come back around. So there was
As
a
it
little bit of
does
me,
too.
as it does. I was like, somebody sent me like an article about something happening with this company, and I was like, karma. It's like, okay, the universe
Okay.
always provides, and
Also,
actually
when
took
you're
me.
God's favorite, when you commit to this work, you become God's favorite, and then nobody messes.
That's
No
right.
revenge because I am God's favorite.
That's right. Don't mess with me. God's on my side, okay?
Yeah, they have no idea the spirit team that we have with us.
Yeah. Totally.
No, it always happens that way. And I love your story so, so much because it's real and it's honest. And it sounds like I love that you were like, well, I still was like kicking and screaming and crawling and like trying to figure it out. Have you noticed resistance in your room, right? When you're holding the space for the spinal energetic work that you do, you're moving their body, you're unearthing these emotions. What does that resistance look like in that space, and then how do you get them onto the other side in that moment?
Such a beautiful question. Well, I think it's important to lay the groundwork for anybody who maybe hasn't heard of that specific modality. So
Yes.
with my body intelligence coaching work, I weave in spinal energetics, shamanic arts, hot seat coaching, just tough love, girl talks, all the things, right? But
So good.
specifically to bring up spinal energetics, it's really a nervous system remembering practice. Okay, it helps your body remember how to metabolize stress or how to bounce back from stress faster. Okay, so when people come to me, a lot of times, which I think anybody listening can attest to this, you don't hire a therapist because you're like, everything in my life is great.
So true.
Right? So we usually get called in because there's things that are happening in our lives that are challenging. So people will come with the friction. We open up the container, and as we get into the actual session, it's all about creating what I like to call a brave space. So a lot of times in the wellness space, we talk about like, this is a safe space. This is a safe space. I think safety is very important, but it depends on what your goals are. Many people will go into wellness spaces to go from dysregulated to regulated, which is totally fair. You're really stressed out, you had a long day at work, I'm going to go to a sound bath to become more regulated. The conversation that I'm having with my clients is about being brave and running towards the challenges, the stories, the traumas, the disconnects that you have been holding within you and actually addressing them. And so, what we do is we create a container that first is rooted in radical accountability, in vulnerability, which requires courage, honesty, in leveling the playing field. I will never be somebody who is going to come through as intended to be like holier than thou. I'm a human being too. I've had my own experiences. But once we get into the session, we use breath, stretch, and sound, whether it's in person or online, to create a certain nervous system response. So I lead that and facilitate that. So the client doesn't have to think about it, but they're just dropping into a state where their body now has access to processing things somatically or through the body. The movement that people tend to see, if you've ever seen it or done any research, is not me moving them, really. It's actually, think of it like a response that the body has, when the doctor comes with that little gavel and will hit your knee, and then the knee kind of just reflexes and pops up. So we're actually tapping into your body's natural reflexes and resources to get it out of a chronic functional freeze state and to metabolize the stress that you're experiencing. So that's the context. And to bring it home to your question of like, when that resistance comes up, I will often tell my clients this analogy of going into a wave. of an actual wave in the ocean. This is something that always has helped me and actually helps a lot during session, which is think of it as an analogy. If you're standing in the ocean, being your emotions, or in a challenging conversation, right? That would be the ocean. You're standing in it and you have a wave that's coming over your head, or an emotion that feels too big, or a conversation that feels too triggering. You have three options, and anybody who's been in the ocean knows this. You can either dig your feet in and hope the wave doesn't knock you over, but if it's over your head, it probably will, and you have a lot of sand into bikini bottoms, okay? So that's option one. Doesn't work well. The worst option. Don't do that one. The second option is to try to like time it right and try to jump over the wave. You might see that when people are splashing the ocean. And then the third option is what like surfers will do, which is they actually go towards the break and they dive into the wave. And so when the resistance comes up, to answer your question, I'll just say to my clients, go into the wave, go into the wave, go into the wave. And that really helps them to have a visual. And I teach them what that actually contextually means in their experience. But giving that frame can really help people.
Wow. I can just imagine how insanely supportive that voice is. Go into the wave, go into the wave, go into the wave in that moment. Because that is so many people that come to me for like guidance on like, I just can't get through. I have too much fear. 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 I can't do it. I'm too good. I'm too scared. I'm too scared. And I tell them, I don't do it as beautifully and as eloquently as you do. I love the wave analogy, but I say this kind of something similar where I'm like, I say you have two options. I don't even give them the third option, right? I'm just like, you have two options. You can either choose to dance around it for the rest of your life, and it's going to manifest in all areas of your life as a very subtle, not magical life. It's going to continue to show up in your relationships. It's going to continue to show up in your work dynamics. It's going to continue to show up in all aspects of life because your soul is constantly going to be asking you to dive in. So you can either go the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years with this, like, like life is just okay. Or you can know that an emotion lasts 90 seconds. You can know that even if I sit here and purge it out for an hour and cry and let my body release this deep fucking pain or this discomfort or this like abandonment wound or this fear of loneliness or this like deep desire for something that is just not in your life, right? Like that longing, and you just allow yourself to lean into that. It's so temporary. It goes by so much faster than we think. And we're not stuck in the wallowing. The story that we make from that emotion and that feeling and that sensation is what lasts longer. But of course, when you have incredible guides, we're not going to let you go into that story. We're going to make sure that you stay present right here to let this fully pass through your body, because that's all it is. It's just energy that has been stuck and it just wants to pass through its full circle, like completion. And
Absolutely.
then it goes away. And not only do you like no longer have this pain or this discomfort or this chronic fatigue, you actually get to open your entire world up to so much more magic in your relationship, so much more authenticity in the way you show up in the world. And then that authenticity is what attracts the stuff that you actually came here to enjoy.
Amen. I love that. I think that like one thing that we don't talk about enough that I heard you say is how painful it is. Like the cost of an action. Like what is the actual cost of an action? And that's something that I do with my clients as well, through more of like a coaching lens of we spend so much time focusing on the positive outcome, the goals, the dreams, the visions. And it's important to have that and to know that as to direct
Like
yourself and your focus. Yeah, of course. But also there is a cost of inaction. And
Mm,
that what a lot of people like sometimes struggle to put into words is the suffocating feeling that you experience from going to a job that you hate, from being in a relationship where you're not being your authentic self, from not
mhm,
having that conversation with your parents that you really need to be having. Like the chaos that you're trying to avoid externally doesn't energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just gets transferred, baby. So it just goes in and you have to decide. And like I had to decide, like, am I willing to swallow this and take this in? And there is a real cost of that, which can be like physical, mental, emotional, energetic, relational.
yeah,
And when you start to put those two up against each other, you brought up 90 seconds for the emotion. I mean, emotions that we experience are really responses to a hormone injection from the body, right? So, like a cortisol spike.
right,
And then everything else, which you said, but I'll just say it in a different way as well. It's like
yeah,
everything else is the story that we're making about the cortisol
mhm,
spike. So if
mhm,
we can, that's why I love somatic work, because it's like, actually, I'm never going to tell you not to feel the feeling. I'm never not going to
mhm,
tell you to be petty. I'm never not going to tell you not to have an ego. I'm never not going to tell you not to be angry. But what we're going to do is we're going to actually go into the wave, and we're going to do what most people you might hear mainstream are telling you, love and light. No, I'm not going to
yeah,
bypass your experience. We're going to run all the way through it and see what's on the other side of it. And
yeah,
usually if you run towards it, it's a lot shorter than you thought. And it
mhm,
allows for you to come from a place of, if for nothing else, gosh, I mean, for most of us, if we're lucky, we get about 50 years left at this thing,
mm,
And do you want to spend the rest of your life shape shifting and feeling like you're suffocating in your own experience and lying to yourself and feeling heavy? And it's like, gosh, if I could just help you speed that process up so you can get through to the thing that you came here to fucking do, like, let's do that.
truly, 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 mic drop. Yeah. Of course, I'm going to dive into relationships because that's what this entire podcast is about. Is we do the work so that's why. Why do we do it? Why are we wanting to be more authentic? Why are we wanting to release and let go of all of this emotional turmoil and baggage? So that we can enjoy the human experience. And a core human need and desire is relating with others. So, how has your journey been? Do you still have a lot of like the same friendships that you've grown through this journey with, or have you realized that you've had to let them go and, call in more aligned friendships? What is that journey like for you? Because so many people that I'm helping right now are just really sad and feeling abandoned that they had to let go of all these friendships that they thought they loved and that loved them, but then realized that. And I love to say that, like, let it go. And I promise you, you'll have moments of reconnection and you'll see that, like, whether they have evolved and you have evolved, then there's resonance, then you can continue a new form of that relationship. But if they haven't, then you just gotta continue on your journey and you get to have that closure and that peace.
Yeah, for me personally, it's been a mixture.
Mm,
I have some friends who have had for 20 years, and I've let go of a lot of my friends, and there is a real grief. That's another thing, is like this work, there's a real grief. Like to tell, my clients and remind them, growth and grief are inextricably linked.
mm,
And
agreed.
anytime that you're going to, you're calling in more growth, right? You're calling in the light, that means that you're going to have to make room on your plate energetically for other things, right? So in my personal experience, I do have some friends that, as we all do, that we've like let go. People are here for a reason or a season. It's all good. But there's this other part of it too, where I'm assuming that if you're listening to this podcast, it's because you want to be your most embodied self, your most honest self. You want to live the fullest life, right? And do that in relationship. The beautiful thing that we get to do is we get to also invite our people on that journey with us, which I think takes a lot of courage and a lot of like embodied leadership in relationship. And what that
Mm.
looks like is coming to a session with me, going into the wave, going into the grief, going into the unprocessed joy, going into, whatever it is that wants to come through. If you're like withholding some sensual expression that wants to come out, we get to go into that too. And then when you go back to your partner, your friends, your family, your community, you get to go, wow, this all I'm holding all of this. I wonder what they're holding.
Mm.
And it
Mhm.
creates this level of this work has made me more compassionate than any other work that I have done, because I started to realize, wow, I'm holding all of that anger and I've met my anger to the depths. And so when somebody else is experiencing that, I know it. I'm not afraid of it because I
Mm.
run towards it. When people are in the presence of others who have met the depths of themselves and who've done quote unquote the work, which is never done, there is something that gets activated where the ego of the other person will start to fight to stay alive. But if you can anchor in your own embodiment, then you get to be a lighthouse for them. You get to show them that there's a different way. And that's what I do with my clients is we practice the art of holding the frame, the art of being the heavyweight champion of holding hard, making hard decisions, and being able to actually be the one to say, I know you don't like me right now, but I still love you.
Mm.
And holding that frame and allowing something to stir, you'll see it. When you really do it, you feel the shift, the gear shift in that other person where they go, I didn't even know that was possible. And that to
Mhm.
me is like where we get to liberate each other in relationships. Like in, my relationship with my partner. So often, oh my gosh, where when I met him, I didn't even know that it was possible for me to relate to a man in that way.
Mm.
And that activation that he provided me and me vice versa has created such a tender, fertile soil for possibility. So if you're in a place where you're like, gosh, this is really hard, I don't know if I can, you get to be the one to lead and you get to be the one who liberates that person from the fear, from the shame, from the guilt by you doing the work first and saying, I see you, I know you, I hear you, I love you still, and we can move forward.
And that's so beautiful and hard
Mm-hmm.
because our victim consciousness comes and starts to get really, really activated. And it's again, like it sounds like it requires a lot of mastery of recognizing and becoming aware of when we're wanting to play victim versus when we're being invited to rise into embodied leadership. And I like to say that if you don't enjoy the reality you're in, it is your responsibility to show up differently. And that is what helps you step into a completely different reality. You must go first. We are here to
Mm-hmm.
go first. And when you do, you'll realize, and it feels really scary, right? Especially for people that have core abandonment wounds and loneliness and sense of belonging and all of that, where you're like, if I'm too different, I'm not going to have community. I'm not going to have friendships. I'm not going to have connection. But the truth is that when you go first, you actually start to magnetize the people that are already going first in their own little universes and realities. And then you start to connect with the people that you have been longing to meet and to be with and to be seen by and to be witnessed and to witness them in theirs. And you become this person with a larger capacity for the full spectrum of being a human being. But you must have the courage to go first, as hard as that is.
Yeah, going first. I love what you said about like attracts like,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
if you're feeling lonely in this moment, like your people can't find you if they can't see you.
I
So
love
you
that.
have to let yourself be seen, and to not bypass on this podcast because we don't do that here. That's the work that I really love to go into with my clients of what is the actual path through. Because what I heard you talking about was how does someone's lived experience inform the way within which they relate to other people?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you and I are both women. You and I are both brown women. We come from different ethnicities. We have different mixtures. We are perceived by other people in the world differently and grew up differently, right? But that's going to inform the way that we walk into rooms naturally because of how we've been raised and conditioned and socialized, right? So that conversation of, I love working in the void. I love working in that in between of like, actually, like I have a client after this is a trans woman, a trans Black
Wow.
woman. Okay. So trans Black woman is going to walk through the world very differently when it comes to business and relationships and community
Mm-hmm.
and everything. We're not going to put this person in situations that are going to stretch them into places that are, now this is the conversation to talk about safety, right? And this person came to live a full out life and has a big mission. I'm very excited for her. A big mission. Y'all about to
Oh
know
my
who she is in
gosh.
a minute.
Oh my God.
So
Cannot wait. You're hearing it here now
you're hearing
first.
it live. You're hearing it live. We literally have our first call today after this. Anyway,
Oof, so exciting.
point is that like what are going to be the conditions required for that client to move forward. And so like I'm calling us all in to really ask that question instead of just rah rah shish kumbah, coaching, personal development summit. Listen, I'm here for all of that. I love them. But sometimes we get so high on that collective effervescence, and then we come back to our real lives and we go, wait, they didn't have this in the workbook. And so you have to really work with people who
Mm.
understand a trauma aware approach, which you can call it that, but really it's just about like, what are the stories that you're holding, that you've learned, that you've lived, and what are going to be the conditions required for Shantani, for Sana, for my client, for you listening, based off of your lived experience, to actually have the conditions within which courage is available.
Mm.
And when you can create those conditions where courage is available, that's where your life changes, rather than focusing on, well, Tony Robbins did that. Well, Esther Perel did that. Well, so and so did that. Well, what are you going to do? Because you're not them. So use them as a lighthouse, but you need to figure out your true path through. And that's what I help my clients do.
Not only do you help them through that, but you sharing your story and your journey so authentically gives so many people permission to realize that it is different for marginalized communities. It just is. And there's so many layers and layers and layers to this work that is so deeply rooted in beyond just our childhood trauma or childhood upbringing and this and that. And it goes deeper and it goes into the womb work of, especially for any human that holds a womb, is like you have 7 generations before you in that energetic space. Sometimes you're the one that is chosen by your ancestors to go deep, deep, deep because you have been blessed with the ability and the capacity and the safety for that soul assignment. And you can say, why me? I didn't choose this, but you did. And you not only did you choose this, you actually were invited and you were throned and you were crowned for this opportunity and this immense privilege and honor to not just heal for you, but to heal for your entire lineage. And this is colonial work. This is racism. This is poverty. This is the witch wound. This is religious trauma. This is re-establishing our connection to the divine directly, not through some white person, not a Jesus looking figure that is white. Like Jesus wasn't even white. Like, and Jesus never said that you get to God through me. He said you have access to it too, girl. Like you go yourself. Like it's
Period.
insane. It's insane how we let the man distort all of these ways for us to connect deeply. And every single human being on this planet has the ability to connect directly. And like you said, not through Tony Robbins, not through Esther Perel, but you. What is your unique path and connection to this higher power? And don't let anyone or anything tell you how and this is right and that's wrong. Right and wrong doesn't fucking exist in this frequency, in this reality. It is whatever authentically feels aligned. So I love that you're working with this Black trans woman, because talk about a unique path to connecting beyond what other people are saying is right and wrong. Like this is going to be like the most epic journey and story that is going to empower so many people to be like, oh, like more unique stories to connect, please.
Yeah, because when we do that, we liberate others to do that as well, right?
Exactly.
And what you said about having that divine assignment, that, sometimes you're like, did I really choose this? Because this shit is hard. Okay. You're like, this is really hard. And, I think that when we're put in these positions in life where we have the easy path and the hard path, if the easy path were meant for you, you're hardwired for homeostasis. You would have just taken it if it was the right one, right? Like if you're stuck right now in between a path of, well, this would be a lot easier, but this harder one seems like more aligned or more exciting, or there's something pulling me there, there's a really good chance that you're being called to do that one. Otherwise, why would you? Why would you pick the harder, less aligned option? That wouldn't even be in your field.
Really hate yourself. Like you really hate yourself.
Like,
but we don't
really
do hate here.
It's
self-love.
Exactly. It's like just giving yourself that frame, in those moments where like, okay, well, this is really hard, but there must be a reason I'm doing it, because the easier path clearly isn't it. Otherwise, I just would. So I just love what you said about that. And, and really just hearing you say, like, what is your baseline? For me, with my clients, I'm like, freedom is your new baseline. And everything from there allows life to be a ceremony. And when your life is a ceremony and your body is the temple and truth is the altar, and
we're rapping now.
Come on. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to drop an album.
I mean, I'm hearing it and I'm vibing. And it's happening.
I'm saying, y'all, like, I just really believe that, like,
same.
We get to, and we, what else you brought this up that I feel wants to be named is you brought up like marginalized communities, and you brought up people of different lived experiences. And like, there are a lot of places where no matter where you come from, what you've been through, no matter even what you look like, because there are so many people who do not have privileges that you wouldn't even know based off of maybe like through neurodivergence or through mental health struggles or substance challenges, right? Like it doesn't matter what color you are, like there are privileges that we all have. And so the conversation that I'm always having is, what are the privileges that you have? Like, what are the privileges that you have? And how can we take that thing that was deemed as something that should be outcast or washed away? Like, can we reclaim it and see how we can alchemize it into something that could be leveraged? Like, how can we find leverage through those places where you feel like you might not have privilege? And when you start getting into that nuance of conversation, right, we can use like my client, for example, Black trans woman, don't even need to explain the lack of privilege, but leverage is that you probably will be in most spaces the only person like you in that space, and therefore
like we're heading into this era of authenticity where everybody is craving more and more of that. So like I think brands are going to start really shifting their marketing strategies, and I think we are in the middle of this massive evolution of how we are selling and sharing offerings to the world. And human beings are becoming way too smart to just be like, oh, just because Kim Kardashian shared this, I'm going to buy it. Just because Hailey Bieber is saying this, I'm going to buy it. That era is ending.
It's ending. It's
It's
basically
ending.
done. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so too. And the direction of the market is like moving towards people who are in a league of their own.
exactly.
So when
And those
you
are going
can
to be the
start
most
to,
magnetic people, actually.
for
And like
sure. I mean,
those
and
are
I
the
think,
new influencers, the new celebrities. Like those are the ones that are going to be building authentic community and having buying power.
absolutely. I think the more that we can, like, that's the most important work you can do is like, where am I in a league of my own? And how can I, what am I really here to do? And it doesn't always have to be so like I'm here to do this in the world. Like it could just be, you know what I would really love is to buy a plot of land with my husband or my wife or my partner and like raise chickens, and like that to me feels like home. And I'm like, great.
Mm.
So like what are the conditions required to create the courage for you to go from your 9 to 5 to that life? And
Mhm.
we're going to first, of course, build a path. But beyond that, we're going to have a really intimate, honest, and loving conversation around what stories your body is holding through your nervous system, through somatic processing, that we can start to write a new story for you through them and let them be the foundation, but not them be the end of the arc.
Yeah, that's it. That's the whole process. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. This conversation was so yummy and so delicious. I can't wait to edit it
I
and
know.
soak in all of the juices.
It's so good. Okay, so everyone, we're dropping an album. No,
Yeah, literally. Oh my
I
gosh,
love
it's
it.
you have to. It's just like the seed is planted.
Okay, so I
Whenever
guess I'm
that
dropping an
seed
album.
sprouts, this is the oh my gosh, and you also have like the perfect backdrop for like the most epic photo shoot for this album. How can my audience find you? How can they work with you? And what do you have going on in your world?
Well, what's going on in my world? You can figure that out and come hang out with me. Just drop into my DMs at Somatic CEO. Come watch my stories, hang out. We like to clown around in there. I'm very just honest.
Oh my
Just
god, your stories recently about the stool sample. I was like on the floor cracking up. It was
literally
just to give
okay,
people a
everyone.
taste.
I know. It's like literally, it's like we don't do TMI here. I'm just keeping it real, keeping it raw, keeping it honest. We're all just walking each other home. So
Mm.
if you're looking for someone to just connect with, to do life alongside, you can find me at Somatic CEO. And if you're curious about learning more about this work, shoot me a DM. And you can get started by taking my free quiz that I've created for people. So it's called What Wild Animal Runs Your Subconscious? It's giving BuzzFeed. It's giving like I'm in between calls and I just want to kill 2 minutes and have some fun. So you can take that quiz, and it's based off of attachment theory and nervous system research and what we know about those two things to help you unlock your like stress resiliency superpower, so that you can really figure out, how can I find that leverage that we were talking about earlier through the challenges that I've been experiencing using those two frames. So I invite you to do that. That'll help you get into my world and get some context in your lunch break for yourself. Yeah, we can continue the conversation further, but I really look forward to meeting all of you. Seriously, drop in the DMs, and just remember that freedom gets to be your baseline, and you get to be the leader of your own legacy and build the life that you really want.
I love that and agree. I can't wait to go take this quiz and find my wild animal, and I can't wait to put that on everything. And it's going to be my new identity. So thank you.
Ooh, we love a new archetype unlock.
Okay, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode. All of the links are down below in the show notes, and definitely go to follow and dive into Shantani's world. You are going to receive a lot of juicy magic. Thank you so much, Shantani, and I hope everybody has a great day.